Dispatchers help callers on the worst days of their lives. For over 25 years, we've been there. A silent partner in millions of calls thanks to our redundant and diverse networks that ensure call delivery. Today, cities are bigger, traffic more congested, and the challenge is more complex. But you're never alone, because InDigital is quietly improving, implementing, and driving the next generation of 911, so you're supported in every situation. Make the switch at indigital.net.
My job is all about purpose.
Just the ability to make a difference, to help someone be able to go home at the end of the day.
My great-grandfather started the volunteer fire department in Springfield, Nebraska. My grandmother was a nurse. My uncle was a fire chief in Atlanta, Georgia. So somewhere down the line, it was my purpose to be doing this.
Yeah, we're a family here.
The data we get from Rapid SOS is life-saving.
Have you ever met a 911 professional and asked, what's the worst call you've ever taken? Well, here's your answer. I heard your last breath the night you flipped your four-wheeler. I tried to call you the day you committed suicide by driving your car into a tree. Blue face, cold to the touch. I helped you with CPR after you found your infant face down, not breathing. It messed me up. I did everything I could, but it wasn't enough. You were with me from the beginning, Grandma. 27 years later, I took the 911 call when you died. How fitting to be there for me in the beginning, and I was there for you in the end. I miss you, Grandma. I am 911. This is but a glimpse into the world of emergency dispatch. But what is it really like to answer a call during someone's nightmare? What is the impact of the first responder answering the call? Available on Amazon or where you purchase your favorite books and ebooks. Imagine listening. Your worst day is our everyday.
This is Jordan, and you're listening to the Code 7 Podcast Network.
Warning. This episode contains the 3 A's of podcasting: adult content, adult language, and awesomeness. You've been warned.
I think I have a couple of them. One of my first major bad calls, I guess if you will, was a man on fire. And there is a protocol code for that.
Yeah.
But how often do you really get a person on fire?
For sure, yeah.
And so I think it was, number one, the situation, but also I was in disbelief when she was calling. Because it was in like a Lowe's parking, like a very busy area. And he was just walking into the plaza. And so the lady's like, what do I do? And I'm like, do what you feel is safest. Because you don't know the severity of the situation. Like, how did he catch on fire? All these things that she didn't know the answer to.
Something close that, she might, right? Yeah.
So that one really stuck with me for a very long time because I had all the questions that I never got answers to. How did he catch on fire? What was he doing in the middle of a busy plaza? And why was there only one caller about this?
Welcome to Within the Trenches, true stories from the 911 dispatchers who live them.
Hey, what's going on? This is Ricardo with the Code 7 Podcast Network, and this is going to be Within the Trenches, true stories from the 911 dispatchers who live them. This episode is sponsored by InDigital, a leader in next-gen core services, as well as Rapid SOS, Safer Together, and a big shout-out to subscribers as always. I wouldn't be able to do what I do if it wasn't for all of you. So thank you so very much, and especially all of you who watch, listen, support, and share. I'm currently recording live out of Florida. And we are in, I think it's Sandestin, maybe Destin, one of the two, Sandestin. And we're at the Florida NINA Fall Conference, and a lot of awesome things have been going on here, and just an excellent area. It's a little bit colder than I thought it was going to be, but it's better than the 20 degrees that I left when I was in Indiana and Detroit. So it's been really good. It's been a lot of fun, and I'm excited for my guest today. We were talking yesterday, actually, and she was a little nervous, but She's going to be amazing. She's going to do very, very well. And my guest today is Hannah, and she is a 911 professional with Alachua County out of Florida. How's it going?
It's going. Thanks so much for having me.
Yes,
I'm nervous, but excited.
This is going to be fun. It is going to be excellent. And I'm excited to have you here and chat with you and learn more about your story, because even right off the bat, yesterday when we were talking, mutual friend, Yaz, she introduced us and stuff. And when you walked off, because I had heard that you had mentioned that you were on a different podcast, but I was listening to you guys talk, and I said to her, after you had walked off, I said, I would love to have her on the podcast. She's like, well, she's standing right there. And I said, yeah, but she's like 4 booths away, and they're talking, and I don't want to just walk up and be like, hey, excuse me, as whatever you guys are doing. So she goes, okay, well, maybe I'll go. I don't even remember now. Did she go over there and get you?
No, she texted me.
That's
She's
right,
like,
she
can
did.
you come back here for a second? I'm
Yes,
like, yeah.
that's what it was. Yeah, that's right. She said she was going to text you. So she ends up texting you, and we come back and we get this set up and everything. So again, I'm excited to be here with you and just learn more. So where you're at, how long was the drive for you here?
About 4.5 hours.
Oh, okay, so it wasn't too bad.
It wasn't too bad. It was raining off and on or sprinkling, so that's
really?
what took a little longer.
A lot of accidents or anything?
I only saw one on the way that wasn't terrible. It just got dark at like 5 o'clock or something like that as I was driving up.
Well, that's good then, because the last few weeks that I've been traveling, there's been accidents all over the place.
I've heard that more and more lately.
Yes, it's been crazy. One of the accidents that I saw, the person's tire and a chunk of the axle was just in the middle of the road.
Oh my
And
goodness.
we're going all the way
All
around. Yeah, and we're like, this looks crazy. But everyone looked like they were okay. The car's definitely not okay, but
As long as the people are okay.
yes,
it's most
exactly.
important.
Yes, exactly. So I'm glad you made it here safely. How have you been enjoying the conference so far?
I have. I came early for the 911 coordinator boot camp, which is one of my favorite and most beneficial trainings I do every year.
Nice.
So that was wonderful, and then everything else has been great since then.
All right, excellent. So let's dig in.
Okay.
And let's go back in time. So how did you get into public safety to begin with? Do you come from a family of public safety, or did someone end up saying to you, hey, you would make a great dispatcher? Like, how did you even get into it?
Almost the polar opposite. I have one aunt. She was a commander in our PSAP, and she actually was saying they were in a staffing crisis, as many PSAPs are.
Yeah.
And she was like, do you know anyone who can type and pass a drug test and needs good benefits? And I was like, me. And she's like, no, anyone else.
Oh.
I was like, I could do all that.
Right, yeah.
And when I went in, I think she really sat me with someone to scare me off. And when I went in, I'm pretty sure an airplane landed on the interstate that day, and I was hooked. I was like, this is it. I'm going to do it. And that's how I got started. I didn't come from like law enforcement or firefighter, none of that in my family.
What? What a way to start out, though, coming in for that first sit-along, because there's a lot of folks that they don't get a chance to do a sit-along, or when they do get the chance, they go in and nothing happens.
Oh, no. My agency will tell you I'm the little black cloud. I walk in the room, and it just goes up from there. I won't say the Q word, but it's...
But I will say this. So you're the ship magnet, then?
I am a little bit almost, and if it can go wrong, it will. If it's never happened, I'll get the call.
So if there's an overtime shift and people hear, oh, Hannah's coming to work overtime with us, everyone cringes.
Yeah. And then when I get the call and they're like explaining it, and they're like, what is that? They're like, oh, it's Hannah's. That makes sense.
Oh, no. Okay, well, so... All right. I mean, you had that moment, and I usually ask kind of more towards, as we're going through, like, can you pinpoint a moment where, whether it be an incident or, whatever, that it solidified the fact that you were in the right place and this is what you wanted to do, and it was already that moment.
It was that moment, and then when I put in my aunt again, she told me recently, she's like, I didn't think you'd make it through. Like, she thought I'd get scared off. She had put me with a phase 3 trainer, so when I first got on the floor, pretty much to scare me off. And it just had the opposite effect. So I knew the whole time. I was like, I was okay. I'm doing all right.
Nice. Well, that's awesome then. So you had an interesting way of coming in then. So when you go in to start your training and everything after, I mean, so let me backtrack a little bit. See, that's how you started with your sit along. But what about the process of actually getting hired? Because I know that when I very first started my dispatch career, it was in Polk County, Florida. But it wasn't at the sheriff's office. It was a small PD, frost-proof PD, which is not there anymore. They ended up swallowing the PD and stuff after I had left. But it was about 2 months before I heard back if I had gotten the job. And the chief showed up at my house, asked if I wanted the job. I said yes, but I thought that I don't know, screwed up the interview or something. And he said, no, the background check just takes forever. Do you want the job? And I said, yes, I do. When do I start? Like next week? And he goes, you start tonight.
Oh my goodness.
That's
I could
exactly
not.
what I thought. Yeah. Yeah, I went in that night. I met my trainer, and he was only there for about 20, 25 minutes. He takes a 911 call. When he's done, I actually applauded him. And I said, good job. He's like, thanks. You're next. And
There was no like classroom.
No, it was that night I started on phones, and he told me, folks who are listening to this right now, I wish you could see Hannah's face because her jaw is completely dropped right now.
I could not.
In disbelief, yeah. Yeah, and I remember throwing my hands out at him, and I didn't hit him. I just threw my hands out like, are you serious? I've only been here for about 25 minutes. There's no other training. And I'm sitting there waiting, and I'm sweating, Hannah. I am sweating, waiting for this call to come in. The call comes in, Frostproof 911, where's your emergency? And this lady starts saying to me that she didn't mean to call because it was a butt dial. And I thought, no, thank you for...
At least that was the easy one.
That's true, yeah. And I turn around and I look at my trainer, and he goes, well, you've got the first one down now. And I thought,
piece of cake from there.
Okay, yeah, exactly. So that's how my first start was. And again, just to say that because the background check took forever. So did it take that long for you too?
I don't remember how long it took. I had another full-time job at the time. So I put the application in, it was pending. And I just remember, again, my aunt called me because she was the training commander.
Yeah.
And she said, hey, when do you start? And I was like, oh, they notified me and I accepted it, and then they gave me a start date. And she goes, it was a week after everyone else in my academy. She goes, you start tomorrow. I need you to quit your job. Like,
oh.
And I was like, what do you mean I start tomorrow? She's like, no, the academy starts tomorrow, not next week. I need you here. I didn't get any of they typically send out 10 codes and signals, EMD, EFD codes, so you can start getting familiar with it.
Right.
I had none of that in the prereqs, but we made it work.
Dude.
It's fine. We do a classroom setting, so it's, I think, 10 or 12 weeks of in the classroom before you ever answer a call.
Yeah.
So you get, I always say, we have such a good training program that you really do feel prepared by the time you make it on the floor. You can never prepare for everything.
Oh, for sure,
but you have a good sense of like the equipment, how it comes in, the CAD, everything.
So, okay, I will say that it was about a week or so after that I was there that I did take it was a 40-hour beginner's dispatcher course. But again, it was like a week or so, after, and I'm just there trying to learn while on the job because that's what my trainer had told me. He goes, there's only 3 things really that you need for this job. 1 is thick skin, 2 is common sense, and 3 is you need to be human. And I said, okay, all right.
And my trainer told me the same, that I didn't have thick enough skin. I didn't grow up where I thought like, oh, things are dangerous. I grew up in like a la-la land, as some people will tell you. Like, I was oblivious to the world.
Yes, rainbows and unicorns
so when
everywhere.
I started, he goes, not everyone is good. I'm like, but they're good. And he's like, no. And I was like, okay. And even now they'll tell you, like, I still believe in humanity much more than some people who've been in their profession.
Yeah.
I'm like, it could have been a misunderstanding. They're like, no.
So, interestingly enough, and I was the same way. I still, I would think the best in a lot of people. But as you get into it more and more and more, you find out that, especially when you see something in the news, you might see something that has to do with something that you dealt with or your team dealt with or whichever, and you're thinking, yeah, there's more to that story. They're not saying everything, but there's more to it. Or you find out how dark humanity can be. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. It's like, if you think about Scooby-Doo, the look on your face is like, don't ruin Scooby-Doo for me.
No.
But when you watch it as an adult, you end up thinking, it was kind of telling us something, because these kids are investigating all these ghosts, all of these monsters, right? And what does it turn out that all these monsters end up being? They're all human. Yeah. It's like, how crazy is that?
That's an interesting perspective. I've never even, thanks for ruining
I
Scooby-Doo.
know. Ruin Scooby-Doo. I can't take credit for that. I saw that somewhere. I don't remember where I saw it, but it was the same way for me. I'm looking at it. I had to read it a few times. I thought, yeah.
They're all human.
Yeah. There's like, Scooby-Doo's kind of preparing us.
Oh my
You
goodness.
don't think about it as a kid.
Now you can't unhear that.
I
either.
know.
Like, you've heard it, and now I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't undo it.
Yes, exactly. So you end up, you go in, you've got the classroom setting and everything, but when you walk in that first day, or those first moments going in there, even for the sit-along, how many people are working at a time in the center, and what do you see? Is there multiple monitors, multiple keyboards, or people eating at the same time, doing things that you would think like an octopus is doing?
Yeah, they're definitely multitasking. We have 15 to 20 per shift, and there is 5 or 6 screens at each position. And that was one of the most intimidating things for me, because I don't have a whole bunch of technical background. I worked at a spa prior to this, so it was not in my realm. And I was like, that's 3 keyboards, 6 screens, and people are just eating snacks.
And a partridge in a pear tree. Yeah.
Or sewing, knitting, and I'm like,
right.
okay. I'm like, yeah, you've clearly been here a while to be able to do all that. That was one of the most overwhelming things, is sitting at the console and having to be like, how can I multitask all of these things at the same time that they ask you to do?
Holy moly. Yeah, that and yeah, like you said, it's intimidating. It can be overwhelming. I remember walking in, and when I left the single PD, I ended up moving back home to Southwest Michigan and finish off my career at that center at a central dispatch, and now I'm working with a team, and just watching them and also eating at the same time, like you were saying, I felt overwhelmed. And I'll ask you this as well, because I asked myself this: can I do this? And did you have those moments, like right in the beginning, like, am I going to be able to do this? This looks crazy.
I had some of them. I'm sure everyone has some degree of them, but at the same time, it was like such a good purpose when you knew you were getting someone help.
Right.
And I'm great at multitasking. I'm great at quick thinking. So even though I had no exposure to it, I knew I could do those things. And I will jokingly say, I can be trained to do anything. Anything at all I can be trained to do.
Oh, right.
And so then eventually you start catching on.
Yeah.
And you're like, all right, I can do this. It's less scary. And obviously after your first call, as you said, it just gets easier. You're like, it's not so bad. Like,
right. Yeah, those nerves might be in the back of your head, right, and maybe deep down, but it's not the way it was right off the bat in the beginning. Because it's about, I've had a lot of conversations with people, and we've kind of landed on between the 2 and 3 year mark as kind of the sweet spot of where you really feel dialed in. You've got all of the information that you're learning right in the beginning, just getting pounded with codes, ORIs, like all of these different things. But around 2 to 3 years, it's kind of when you're dialed in. You're like, I've got this. Like,
see, and I hear you say that, but we're consolidated, so you have to learn every position. So I learned new call taking. Then at the 9-month or a year mark, they're like, okay, we're going to train you at teletype, and we're going to train you at PD dispatch, and then ultimately fire dispatch. So every year I was still continuously learning.
Oh man.
It's like you still knew the 10 codes and signals, those are all the same.
Yeah.
But it's a whole new set of units to learn and protocols.
Dang. Okay. So for me, my training, because we did every discipline of public safety as well, and it was 4 months was my training. Now, I had 4 years of experience already, but coming from a single person for 8 hours, going to working with a team for 12 hours, they're like, you got the experience, we could probably rush you through it. But even towards the end of my training, I remember my trainer asking me, because I was in the shadow phase, and she goes, you think you're ready to go? And I said, hell no. I said, no. I said, there's so much more stuff to learn. And it's like, well, you've got the foundation. You continue learning as you're
You'll
going
never be
on.
trained if you're waiting for every scenario.
Exactly.
You'll never get through it.
Exactly, yes. And they just told me, like, no, you're ready. And I was like, okay. And they were right. It was just me. I was just
rip the Band-Aid off.
Yes, just rip and jump in there. Yeah. So, do you guys work 12 hours then?
We work 12s. Yep,
12s,
7 to
okay.
7. And then we're alternating. We mimic our road unit, so every other weekend, similar basic schedule. But the 12s are long. They're long when you're the one that gets all the calls, all the bad calls.
So you're on 7 to 7, but are you nights or days?
I've been lucky that I was always days.
I like how you say that for those watching and listening. It was like, I don't want to jinx it. Like, I could feel your energy.
So I was there, obviously full-time for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And by the grace of whatever you believe in,
Yes.
I always made it on day shift. Not always at the top, but I was there.
Wow.
You know, when we train, like when I learned GPD radio, you do 6 weeks on nights and 6 weeks on days to get exposure for both sides. And the night shift was the longest days of my life. Trying to stay awake when you're not accustomed to it.
Yes.
It was awful. I know there's people who prefer it, and I bless them because they can have it.
Well, thank you for your blessing, because I was midnights. I loved midnights. But it was mostly because that's when all the crazy stuff really happens. Not that I'm bloodthirsty or anything, not like that. Like, it's just there was just such a variety of different things that's going on, and I felt like I was just really, really just pushing it and helping so many people, where on days there wasn't that many. And this is why it's going to sound weird to people who are not in public safety. There's a lot of people who listen to this podcast that are not in public safety. For example, my family, my siblings would say, how have things been in dispatch? And say, well, it's been kind of boring. Like, there hasn't been a lot going on. And they would go, doesn't that mean that people don't need help? Isn't that a good thing? And I would say, you are correct. You are correct, but my job is to help people, and I want to help people. So that's what I mean. So during days, there wasn't a lot of calls. It was mostly admin calls.
Yeah,
people calling
absolutely.
in for, permits, or I don't know, whatever that's coming in, or alarms coming in. And I would just sit there and think, okay, I mean, I'm fine with not doing that much, but I want to do more. So that was kind of my thing with that.
Yeah, and I definitely know, like, if you look at statistics, there's more high priority calls on night shift because that's when stuff happens. You know, it's when crime happens sometimes.
Yeah, I think some of the, and this is where it's, I guess, kind of heavy a little bit, on mornings, there was almost always there was a window, a certain time, where people would call in and they would say, my husband or wife or whatever is not waking up, and you're like, It was like that time period, and we always knew. Like, you always know when something is going to be coming in, and or just hearing someone. I mean, it's interesting how in this profession, when you're talking to people, just in the twinge of their voice, you can tell something is about to hit. Something is going to be
it's not
either,
a good one.
Yeah, bad or just whichever, and you're just sitting there listening. And then when you're done, you have to process it. And either you process it by getting a chance to walk off, which doesn't always happen, right?
Not at all.
Especially with your with your group having that many people. My minimum was 3 at my central dispatch. Our max was 4 or 5, depending on what was going on. So for you to say 15 to 20 at a time, that blows my mind. Like, I've been to centers throughout the years where there's like 20 to 30 people working at a time, and I'll stand there looking at this cube farm and see people sometimes like look over, and I'm like, hi.
Yeah, we're in pods of like 4 seats and then radios set up, but it's easily, I mean, if we were at full staffing, 20, 25 on days, or higher, if you have all, 2 supervisors, a commander, like
Oh,
max
man.
capacity.
Yeah.
It'd be great. But I've never worked at a smaller agency. So when I hear people doing that, I'm like, that's so odd to me. Like,
Yeah.
But the call volume, I assume, is less than ours.
Yeah, no, for sure. So like I said, where I started out, small city, 2 traffic lights, a McDonald's, a school and a grocery store.
Yeah.
Small place. Everyone was the chief. The chief knows everyone. And the call volume wasn't that high. But when stuff would happen, I'm the only one there. There's no one there to help me. So I'm losing my mind trying to make sure that everything is going
with
as
no one
smooth
there
as
to help.
possible. Yeah, with nobody there. There would be times where I remember we would have some of our groves that would catch on fire. And I'm having to call basically like DNR for fire and stuff to get a plow out there to get everything going. But it's just me running fire, running that. Luckily, we didn't do EMS there. We had to transfer over to the county. But either way, I'm still running the county radio just in case to coordinate everyone and then the officers. But here's the thing that would happen a lot of the times, that those groves would catch on fires because someone didn't want to pay for their car. They had just bought a brand new nice car, and they would pay people to steal the car, take it to a grove, and set it on fire.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it wouldn't fail that I would get a phone call a little bit afterwards from someone saying, someone stole my car. I don't know what happened. Like, oh, guess what? The license plate I didn't tell them that, right? But I would tell the officers.
It just so happens it caught fire 30 minutes ago.
Just so happens that it caught fire. Yeah. And there was nothing that anything could be done.
I wouldn't even think that was a thing.
Yeah.
Like a thing that people, it would not even have crossed my mind.
Yeah, it was crazy, but that's how it was for me in Florida, just being in that one seater. But yeah, so to listen, so we're both thinking, you're thinking because of the small center, and I'm looking at it with your huge center and everything, and those dynamics. Because even in the central dispatch, if there was the 3 of us on, I would be on phones on one side by myself, empty console to my left, and then on the other side is main law enforcement radios, and then our backup radios and phones, but they also ran like NCIC and all of that stuff. In Michigan, they call it lean, so which would be the FDLE over here. So that's how we ran it. And if there was nobody to help me get phones or anything, you learn how to triage very well and very fast.
I can imagine that. I feel very blessed because our center, there is always typically, so if you don't know it, someone does. It's like I am famous for waving my hands when I need help, or saying, does anyone know? And one I can remember is a lady called and said, I'm at the pumpkin patch. Well, it was October. So what pumpkin patch?
Pumpkin patches everywhere, yeah.
She's like, I'm at the pumpkin patch in Hawthorne, which is a city. It's a daycare center. I didn't know that, but I stood up. I was like, does anyone know where the pumpkin patch is in Hawthorne? And I thought it was a true pumpkin patch.
Yeah.
Luckily, someone's like, oh, it's a daycare center. And I'm like, well, that makes more sense with a suspicious person. But
yes.
I feel very lucky that if you don't know where someone is or you need help, that room is so diverse that there is always someone that's like, yes, I can help you.
See, I love that too, because there's always someone who's going to call, just like you're saying, to say something like that. Or we had in Allegan City downtown, people would call in accidents at Water Tower Hill. And when I first started working there, I thought, is that the water tower that it's going to sound stupid, like it's on top of that hill right there going into the city? They're like, yeah. I said, I grew up in the area, so I know that. I just wanted to make sure that that's what it was.
We're talking about.
Yeah, because otherwise, people are like, it's over here by Bob's Road. You're like, I don't know where Bob's Road is. But just like you said, there's always someone in there who's been there long enough. Yeah, like, I know where Bob's Road is. Here's the cross streets and this and that. So yeah, it's always good to have folks in there that know those types of landmarks. And that's kind of what we always want callers to have. Know your location.
Correct, absolutely.
If anything, landmarks, cross streets, anything like that.
Anything that we can go off of.
Right.
Absolutely.
Because, it's easier now with, technology and everything, but when I was even towards the end of 2013, I would go home sometimes. Like we had a state game area, and people would get lost in there. They would call on their cell phone, and then we would lose signal. And I can't find them. There wasn't rapid SOS. There wasn't anything like that. Like, we could try to get the cell phone carriers to ping them, but they wouldn't always find them.
If you're lucky.
Right. So then it's me going home, all screwed up, mental health wise, thinking, I hope they made it out. I hope they called again, because there's no way for us to get a hold of them.
Yeah.
Which sounds crazy,
and
right?
it's one of the things you do. I mean, if you can't find someone and you do take things home, because you never really get the end of the story. It's rare.
Right.
It's rare because you take the call, they get there, and then you don't know the outcome of it most of the time.
Yeah, exactly.
So it does. I can only imagine if I didn't know pinpoint location.
Right. Yeah. No, it was friggin' nuts. So when you had started out and you were taking calls, do you remember your first call or some of the earlier calls?
I do. And again, my trainer, he's still there. He's moved to a different position still in our agency. Mm-hmm. Coming from my background, he really was put there to scare me. He was put there
Welcome
to
to
scare me.
dispatch. Yeah.
And so one of our first calls, or my first call, when they answered, it was from a primate sanctuary in our county, and one of their monkeys had escaped. And I just looked at him because, they train you for all kinds of things, but not quite for that. And I was like, so we have SOPs, and again, it's a very good agency. I'm like, can I have a description of the monkey, the color, weight? I just start listing things, and he's looking at me like, what are you doing? And I'm like, you got to get the description, right? Like, that's all I could think of. And it turns out that primate sanctuary is in a more rural part of the county. The one that got out, liked dogs. So then citizens started coming with their dogs because they thought he would come out of the trees. And he ultimately did. He came down for a dog, and that's how they got him back. But it was quite the first call, and they knew very early on that I would just get those kind of weird, unique calls because of that.
Yeah, that is amazing. I love the fact, though, that because you probably have taken other calls. I know I've taken calls, and those who are listening who are in this profession are probably taking calls where you will ask someone if they feel safe, right, to help out. And I had someone who walked up, who's on a walk with their dog, and there was a car flipped over on his top. Okay. And I said, can you check on him or maybe call out to him? And he goes, I've done my spot. I called. Just get somebody out here. And we're like, okay. Luckily, the car had been there for a long time. There was nobody around it or anything. And but again, it's not to fault anyone. They called. If they don't want to go any further, they don't have to. Yeah, if they're not comfortable, they don't have to. But sometimes you think, oh man, like I would really hope that there would be people around that would hopefully help out. But again, the person called, so they did their job, due diligence,
and not everyone is accustomed to it. Like, I didn't grow up where my dad was a police officer or something like that, so I really can't say I would do any different. Mm-hmm. Put in that situation.
Exactly. Yeah, we don't know.
It's like I left shift one time, and there was someone got hit by a semi, like right in front of me, and that was the first time. And really shock, as many years as I had been there, I'd never been on scene of anything. Yeah. Nothing had ever happened where I'm like, and so to hear, it's like I wouldn't know what I would do in that situation. I called.
Right.
And
exactly.
You know that
That's
you're trained to do these things,
but
I'm like,
people.
I even forgot our own policies when I was a caller. I'm like, because I just was dealing with what I just saw.
See, and that's another thing. I've had conversations with people, and like, so how would you be if you were the caller? And they're like, yeah, I don't know. I probably would be one of those callers. And I helped out a lady once. I called 911, and I was one of those callers where I gave the address right off the bat. I gave the cross streets, and I started going through like EMD stuff, and the dispatcher's like, okay. And then in the back of my head, I was like, you're being a dick. Let them ask the questions. Yeah. I'm like, what are you doing? You're that person.
They're trying to do their job.
Right, yeah. And I remember they said, are you in dispatch or something? I was like, this is Ricardo from Allegan. They're like, oh, hey, what's up, man? I was like, Like, I am so sorry that I just
I always
did all
try
of that.
not to give my name when I've called until the very end. I'm like, just ask the question, to give the answer. That's what they want.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So just to come back around, I'm glad that all of those people jumped in to help out and everything, and bring their dogs and
Correct,
stuff to get the monkey out. But for that to be like your first call and everything that you dealt with, I would think, is this real life? And
Correct.
yeah, and it is.
And that is, I mean, it 100% is, but that's also what made me like, oh, it's not so bad. I mean,
Yeah.
it still was an emergency to them because they're an animal sanctuary.
Right,
So for
of
the animal
course.
to get out, is an issue. But I was like, oh, I could do this. They're not all going to be, obviously there are the bad calls,
Right.
but they're not all the bad calls.
Exactly. Yeah. I tell people, even with like the I Am 911 movement, all of these stories, they're really heavy and hard stories, but there's a lot of people who have shared saves, which are amazing as well. And I tell people when I'm doing the Imagine Listening session, if you want to share a story out loud or write it down, it doesn't have to be one that you've been kind of bearing. If you want to share that one, more power to you. But if you would rather share a good call, a save or something like that, that is just as powerful. So, whatever you feel comfortable. And also I tell people, if you don't want to share a story, you don't have to.
Yeah.
Just as long as you're here in support of everybody else who's sharing, that's what this is all about. Because there was a time where it seemed like almost as if we weren't allowed to feel. It's like you just take the call and you go to the next one and you just keep going. And there wasn't a lot of resources out there. And but now there's resources. People are talking, and there's a culture that's being built. Not in every center. Not every center is there yet, but there's culture that's being built in a lot of centers where it's okay. Like,
Correct.
open up. Like,
Yeah.
talk about it, because we want you to stay.
Correct. And if you carry it for too long and don't talk about it, people leave because they have too much on them.
Yeah, exactly. With that said, as we were talking about this, do you have, and as long as you feel comfortable, a call, throughout these 8 years that you've been in public safety, that just kind of sticks with you?
I think I have a couple of them. One of my first major bad calls, I guess if you will, was a man on fire. And there is a protocol code for that.
Yeah.
But how often do you really get a person
Right.
on fire?
For sure, yeah.
And so I think it was, number one, the situation, but also I was in disbelief when she was calling. Because it was in like a Lowe's parking, like a very busy area. And he was just walking into the plaza. And so the lady's like, what do I do? And I'm like, do what you feel is safest. Because you don't know the severity of the situation. Like, how did he catch on fire? All these
Right.
things that
Yeah,
she
is
didn't
there-
know the
is there
answer
something
to.
close that she might, right? Yeah.
So that one really stuck with me for a very long time because I had all the questions that I never got answers to. How did he catch on fire? What was he doing in the middle of a busy plaza? And why was there only one caller about this?
That's true. Yeah.
Because, a vehicle accident comes in and you get a dozen calls.
Yeah.
And here's this person and you get one call. And I'm like, a man, and you hear me on the audio, and I'm like a man, like a person, like his person is on fire. And she's like, yes. And I'm like, okay, I'll get you some help. Because I was in just complete disbelief. And it was relatively early, but that one has always stuck with me. Just because I'm like, you could hear her trying to process it. And she's like, do we spray him with a fire extinguisher? Like, she's doing her logical steps. And I'm like, I didn't know what to, it's stop, drop, and roll is all what we know.
Right.
What you know from when you're little.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm like, does she go up to him? Do I tell her to get out of her car? Some things you just aren't trained for all the way.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I remember a call once where there was a gentleman who called, and he went into the gas station after pumping gas, and there's nobody around. And I remember someone saying, just see if they can find someone that's there. And we're like, no, because if someone is robbing the place, now you just made another victim.
Correct.
So we're like telling them, get out. And it turned out that the person that was working was stocking the cooler really fast because someone had called in. So that
That's what I
person
was
was
going to
the
say, like he
only
was
one there.
on a bathroom break or something
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
That person was the only one there and needed to do that. And because no one had come by for a while, the person thought it was fine. So that's what was going on. But
goodness.
the reason I say that is because, just like you were saying, you know, if they've got the fire extinguisher and they feel safe, do what you feel is
Safest.
best and safest for you. But to just straight up tell them go, you know, there could be some other chemical there.
Correct.
There could be something else that ends up, you know, there's
Then you have
an
two
amount of
patients.
liability,
Right,
right, that goes into
absolutely.
this. And I mean, how much, if you think about it, how much pressure is that as well when you think about that part of it?
Correct.
And this is not to scare anybody from the position. The position is very rewarding. There's a lot of good that comes out of it as well. I mean, you're helping people. But I think about it sometimes, just someone calling and the way your tone is when you answer 911, where's your emergency, no matter what agency it is, if you sound slightly, and you don't even have to be annoyed or whatever, you just sound a certain way, and that's the first time that person is calling, they might not ever call again.
Yeah, they'll feed directly off of you. If you get elevated, they're going to get elevated. And that's why
Exactly.
it's always better to have the calming voice on the other line.
Yeah.
Because I believe if you elevate, they elevate, and then y'all aren't going to hear each other at all.
Right, and that's why sometimes people, you know, when there's audio or I don't know, whatever on the news, and they play it, and you hear the dispatcher, like you and I know that their voice is staying level because of that exact reason. Because everyone needs to stay calm. It's our job to stay calm and sound like that. But everyone else in the comments are like, this person sounds like they're dead inside. This person sounds like they don't care. It's like, no. In the back of our minds, we're freaking out with the caller too. But it's our job
To stay calm, to be that calm voice.
to have that level voice. It's the same with the people out in the field.
Absolutely.
If officers hear your voice, they're going to kind of freak out as well. But also in the same sense, especially if it's an officer who's usually kind of like, you know, rough and a hard ass, if their voice changes, you know something is going
it's
down.
wrong. Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, you learn to hear and gauge voices even if they're off a little bit. Like, oh, that's not good. Yeah, you learn their voices really good.
We would, and maybe you guys do this as well. I know a lot of people do it, but when something would happen and it was an officer that was hurt or whatever happened, we would start listening to voices and we would narrow down to who we didn't hear, and that's how we knew who it was. That the look on your face, you're like, I've never thought of that.
Well, I mean, I've never been, I have never been the dispatcher in that scenario.
Yeah.
Thank goodness. The only major one I've had did not end in anything terrible. But that's,
But it's interesting, right?
Correct.
And I wonder if it's different in a sense too, because you're in a huge center and you have a bunch of people where, like for me, if I'm taking a domestic and people would listen, we would listen for when they're typing. If they're typing fast and hard, we know something's coming. And so if I was on the phone, I would start saying things out loud, repeating what they're saying, so that whoever's on radios, who's like from here to that table where we're sitting, they would hear it. And if I heard an officer say something, I would yell it over really quick while still typing it so that they would know right away. So that's, you know, we start listening to voices and everything else. And it's just, what a profession, right?
Yeah, there's a lot you can tell just on people's voices and pitches and what they repeat.
Yeah, it's nuts. So with that call that you mentioned, was there a debriefing or anything, or?
So there was not at that time because I was one isolated. It was just me. I think a second call came in shortly after mine, and that call taker heard van, not man.
Oh, okay.
So obviously it's a separate issue. I mean, you know, a vehicle on fire and a person on fire. They're both the fire department. One adds law. There wasn't a debriefing. They did check on me, and our agency is very good. We have a CISM team for the whole agency, and then a CISM critical incident stress management just for our dispatch center. And so they do a great job at checking. There's a notification system. If someone's involved in a call, they'll send it out, like the vehicle accident I explained earlier, where a message went out to all of them like, hey, Hannah was on scene at this MBA. Could somebody check on her? And so then they can kind of coordinate like the care, the after, just as a check-in basis.
That makes sense. Yeah.
But that one, the person on fire didn't hit me until way after. And then I kept having kind of dreams or like, could I have done anything differently? And I couldn't let it go. I replayed it over and over again in my head. Could I have done something better? He ended up not making it long term. I did find out weeks later in the burn unit, he passed away. And so it was like, could I have done anything different that could have saved him? I did find out through a nurse who came into dispatch actually looking. It was a suicide attempt, unfortunately, that one. So it's like nothing, I've come to terms with nothing I could have done would have changed the outcome based on the accelerant he used, those kind of things.
Yeah.
But it took me months to come to terms with that I couldn't have saved him in any scenario that I played out.
I'm happy that you were able to get some form of closure, you know, with that, because a lot of times, as you were saying too, we don't know if we have the time to check in with someone who might know. You know, we might get to hear
Correct.
that, but having that gift of closure helps way more than people would understand, because we're not out there on scene, and that definitely, just because we're not on scene, it doesn't downplay anything that we suffer from, because we're listening to all of this and we're putting these pieces together of this traumatic puzzle in our head to try to build a picture for someone who's going out there.
Correct.
And that sometimes what we build in our heads is worse than what is actually going on.
Absolutely.
And it's hard to get past that. So I mean, I'm glad that even weeks later that you ended up getting some form of closure and finally come to terms that there was nothing else I could do.
Yeah, I was very thankful. She came in on an off chance. I think a med school student, they have to sit in.
Yeah.
And it just so happened she was in the burn unit at that time. I was on shift that day. It was closure by coincidence, if you will, that she ended up saying, I just get everything bad. And I was like, oh, me too. And she was like, oh, I just had this burn patient. And that ended up how we got the closure, but totally by coincidence. At that point, I felt too new to try to go seek my own closure. I didn't know who I would ask. I didn't know nurses. I didn't know how to get the closure. And it seemed odd to call and be like, can I check on this random patient? You know, I don't have a name. I don't have anything about him.
Yeah.
I just have the scenario and that's all.
Jeez. So I will say, I'm a firm believer that some of the calls that we take are meant for us. For whatever reason, whatever past, experience we have that helps us connect with those callers. And in this sense, I feel like, in a way, things were meant for you to end up meeting that person.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, the way you explain it, it's like, what are the odds?
Correct.
Right? What are the odds of just like kind of randomly you're talking to this person and the both of you are kind of that dark cloud,
correct,
right?
yeah.
And you joke about that leading into it, and then it turns out
Correct.
you were both with the same thing.
Yeah, my little badge reel at work said Little Black Cloud, certified black cloud on it with like glitter.
Yeah.
And it's like, because I always try to be uplifting and then I just am the black cloud.
Right. Wow.
But yeah, it was great. I mean, it was wonderful to meet her and wonderful that we had that in an odd way bonding and we were
Right.
able to help put our puzzle pieces together and paint a picture of what happened to him.
Wow. I really do love that for the both of you, because like we're saying, excuse me, you don't always get that closure. And to be able to get that finally after those weeks, because when we take these calls, obviously just the way you explain it as well, and I felt this too on several calls, that could I have done more? And then you get in your head, and then you start questioning, do I still have the ability to do what I'm doing? And you do. It's just your brain starts messing with you, because you're like, I'm here doing this job. What I have told people, especially recently, was even if the outcome wasn't what you wanted it to be, the grace that you can give yourself and the thing that you can think about and be happy about is the fact that whatever caller that you were with at that time, they were not alone.
Correct.
That you were there with them. And even if that is some little bit of saving grace somehow, that you can take that back with you, take it with you, because there is a lot of hell and chaos that is in 911, and it's always good to grasp some of those good things, even if it doesn't seem like a good thing, right off the bat.
In the moment.
Yeah, in the moment, you're like, no, am I supposed to be doing this? Am I doing something wrong? I had a call once where it affected me enough that I started mapping out the distance of where this person was when they left this house and when they drove their car into the tree. And if when I was trying to call them, if there was any way that I could have gotten a hold of them. And I was mapping, like figuring this out for about 30 or so minutes. And then I just finally came to the conclusion. I was like, no, that the person was already into the tree as I was trying to call.
Correct.
There's no way that I could have saved that person.
Yeah.
But we beat ourselves up because that's why we're there, right?
Correct. Because you want to save everyone.
Yeah, we want to save everyone. So that's why I've been saying, the grace was that you tried, you were there for the person, whoever it might have been, and you did what you were supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Now, as we were talking about this, you gave me this chip. And this is why I was also asking about debriefings and everything else, because there's not a lot of places, I mean, more so now than there was before, definitely, but there's some places that don't have things like this. So
there's a ton of places that don't have.
Yeah.
So that was created locally by our agency, and you get one when you start with us. It signifies, so you keep it with you, or you keep it in your locker, wherever you choose to keep it, and you can pass it to a CISM team member to indicate, like, I want to talk to you today, or can we touch base, without it being a big thing, because not everyone who's struggling wants everyone to know that they're struggling.
Yeah.
Especially in the profession.
Fear and stigma, right? Yeah.
There's absolutely the stigma. So you can just pass it to them, whether you slide it, put it in their pocket. It just signifies, you want to talk, and then it's also a reminder. I always keep mine with me that you're not alone. That we at our agency, we all fight together, and we all want each other to be okay at the end of the day, to go home, to be the best we can. And I'm very thankful that we have resources in place. We're working towards even more countywide resources, but I know a lot of places don't have the same level that we have.
I love that. And for those who are watching and listening right now, if you're watching in the video, it's still just audio. But I've got this green and white poker chip in front of me, and there are logos on it, and one of them says, "In our family, no one fights alone." And then on the other side, it says Critical Incident Stress Management Team, and it has Alachua County Sheriff on there as well. So this is awesome. Because you're right, not a lot of people. I was the same way in the beginning. Before I finally stopped caring what other people would say, if I reached out for help or started talking about what I did, I was one of those dispatchers who just kind of buried everything. And I would go home and be like, it doesn't come home with me, which is bullshit, because it does come home with you. No matter how much you don't want to believe it, stop lying to yourselves, because it does come home with you. And if you don't start working on it sooner than later, when you retire out, it's going to come back. And I say that because I have a lot of friends who have reached out and they're like, it's come back. Like, I don't know what to do. And then you get into this imposter syndrome because you're not in 911 anymore, and you feel like you can't reach out to your 911 family. So then you're just kind of suffering alone. So start working on this stuff now if you can.
Speak out, ask for help, get resources in place. I'm a huge advocate for it now, and it's ever growing.
Yes.
Now that I kind of found my voice, if you will, and I was able to kind of speak out and grow. But absolutely, I mean, get help if you need help. Even if you think you don't, get it preventative.
Right, yeah.
Just talk about
exactly.
it. Talk about it out loud.
Even if you just write down the things that are going on. I'm a firm believer of journaling. Write down your wins, because when you go through all the hard crap, you can go back and read those wins and just kind of remember, this is why I'm doing it. Right. I do a good job.
Yeah.
And there are rewarding moments. So, yeah, all of it. I love it. You were telling me a story before we started recording, and I want to know a little more about this, especially for those who are listening right now. So, you ended up helping a mom tie a tie? Is that right?
I did. I think it was maybe a year. I think I just got solo status. So like in my first year or shortly after, a woman came to our center, and there's a phone outside the door where you can call in. And she called in and got a coworker, and she said, "Do you have anyone that can tie a tie? My son has a wedding and I can't tie this tie." Like the audio says like she ironed his clothes and they were all laid out and she had no one to tie a tie. So she came to the sheriff's office, and Cindy, our coworker, she yelled it out loud, "Can anyone tie a tie?" And there were people that are like, "That's not what we do.
Yeah.
It's not our job." And I was like, "I can tie it. I'll go help her." And it was a weekend shift. We weren't insanely busy or anything. And so I went outside. She was the sweetest woman, just didn't know how to help her son prepare. So I put it around my neck and I tied it, and I said, "Here you go." A coworker snapped a picture, and the next thing I know, I'm still not sure how the news really got a hold of it, but it went viral. It was all of our local news stations covered it. New York, I got messages from Canada just because it was a feel-good story.
Yeah.
And it was never my intention. I was like, I can help this lady. Like, if that's what she needed help with,
Right.
it was
That
in
was
my
her
ability
emergency. Right, exactly.
to do it. And it was very interesting just because you would never think something so little could really change her day and help her that significantly.
People say it doesn't cost anything to be kind.
It doesn't at all. And that's, if you ever get a chance and listen to the interview I did, my dad had always told me, "This will come in handy one day." Because I was like, why do I need to know this stuff? I don't know. I don't need to know how to tie a tie.
Yes.
So in that day, I was like, this is what I was preparing for. My whole life I had known how to do this, and it was not useful to me. But that day, it really was her, not emergency, but she needed help with it, and I was able to do it. And it was so fulfilling for me to get to go do it.
So, like I said a little bit ago, some calls are meant for us.
I know.
And here's your full circle moment with your dad telling
That
you
one
day it'll come in
so
handy.
I was so sure that she was just meant to come there that day, and it was, our paths were meant to cross.
Wow. That is, I love that because, there's sometimes folks will call in, and I always tell people, like, there are some calls, that come in or whichever, and you might think, oh, this is not like ridiculous or anything, but this is outrageous or whatever, but that's their emergency. Mm-hmm. And that's why we're there. So you treat every call like it is an emergency, because it's that moment that you end up on the news, mm-hmm. right? Or something else happens. And I love that you jumped in. You're like, I know how to do this, and I'm going to help out.
I try to give every citizen the grace and put myself in their shoes. Like, that it's their worst day usually when they're calling. No one is a professional 911 caller ever.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Like, they don't know what they're supposed to be saying or doing, and the only thing you can do is education and outreach of, here's some resources. Here's these companies that help you find your location, or education on, tell us the business name. Tell us what you see, because we can help find you, but we have to have something to go on if you don't know where you are.
Exactly. Yes. Oh my God. I knew this was going to be a great episode when we started talking. This has been so much fun. I've loved learning so much about you and what you do. And I've got one last question for you as we go into the wrap up of this. And this question, and this is not one that I had listed here.
Right.
Yes, it's easy. It's an easy question. But, and also as I ask this, what I want you to keep in mind is this is not to change anything. Because I feel like we go through a lot in our lives to get to where we're at now, mm-hmm. whether it be hard lessons or whatever, happens. But if you could go back in time 8 years to talk to yourself at the beginning of your dispatch career, what would you tell yourself?
I think that I'm capable, because I had a lot, and I still do, of like the imposter syndrome. Like, do I belong here? Am I good enough? And just learning, I wish we have one commander who does a great job of kind of leading by example. Mm-hmm. And so just that I'm capable, and that you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be mean. You don't have to be the uptight person on the phone to help people. Like, you can do this career path being your true authentic self, and people do genuinely value that, and they appreciate learning from your mistakes.
There you go. I love it. Perfect. Thank you very much for
Thank
being
you.
on. Thank you for, excuse me, for what you do in this profession. And we're gonna have to do another one. Like, this was a lot of fun. This was good. Yeah, this was excellent. Hang tight with me here for just one moment. And for all of those who are watching and listening, if you have any comments, questions, you ever want to be a guest on the show, the easiest way to reach me is to simply go to links.co/IM911, and that is links with 2 i's.co/IM911, and you will find everything there. You'll find my email, you'll find all of my social media, where to follow, where to hear the latest episode Within the Trenches podcast, the latest episode of the Imagine Listening podcast, the Imagine Listening books. You can find everything there, as well as the free link to join the Trenches community, where I have over 200 hours worth of continuing education, and it's all free. And every other month, I have the Public Safety Showcase, where I have speakers come on and share different topics for about an hour each. Again, all of it is free, so make sure to check that out. You'll find the link there. And then any podcast or dispatch merchandise there as well. Once again, it is links with 2 i's.co/IM911. And shout out to InDigital and Rapid SOS for being a sponsor of the podcast. Subscribers, everyone watching, listening, supporting, and sharing, thank you. And you can watch this on Facebook, YouTube, X, LinkedIn Live, and then you can find clips of all of the episodes on Instagram Reels as well as TikTok. And then to listen 24/7, you can listen on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, your favorite podcasting app, and withinthetrenches.net. Have a good one, everyone, and we will see you all in the next one.
Imagine listening to someone's worst day every single day. Imagine listening as someone experiences life, through their worst nightmare to the miracle of birth or a life saved. I'm Ricardo Martinez, a former 911 dispatcher, and for years, I've been recording the voices of a hidden world, ours. I've provided a space for 911 dispatchers to share their powerful stories. It started as a peer support session and continues. Dispatchers sitting together, sharing out loud, or writing down what they couldn't say. Some stories will grip you. Stories of heartbreak, resilience, and calls that haunt us long after the line goes quiet. But Imagine Listening is more than heavy emotion. It's about healing. It's about laughing through the chaos, lifting each other up, and reminding the world that dispatchers are human too. The lighthearted will balance the heavy. Experience the power of storytelling, a podcast for the thin gold line and those who want to understand it. This is Imagine Listening. Your worst day is our everyday. Subscribe now wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.